Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sounds of Success podcast. I'm your host, Noah Swiderski. Today we have Nick Pigeon from Through Liberty Counseling with us. He's all about helping people with mental health and substance use issues. Let's jump right in. Thank you so much, Nick, for being a part of it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in. What got you into mental health counseling and why did you start Through Liberty Counseling?
Yeah. So I guess it goes back to when I started college, right? I got out of high school and I was going to be a cop. So I graduated with my associate's degree and I wasn't old enough to be a cop. So I ended up getting a job in the interim at a community mental health center in Derry. And from there, I decided that's where I wanted to be. So with that, I finished up my bachelor's, switched it to psychology instead of criminal justice. And then I ended up going to UNH for my master's in social work. So that's kind of how I got involved with mental health. I worked in the community mental health system from about 2013 until about 2022, 23, that time frame, right as, the pandemic was starting to cool down a little bit. But yeah, I did most of my time at Manchester Mental Health, which is the biggest one in the state. And so getting started with Through Liberty Counseling, I had a few different roles in community mental health, but towards the end, I was basically a middle manager. I was supervising like 23 people. And I decided, I'm putting in a lot of effort. I'm doing 40 hours a week, more than 40 hours a week, realistically. And I felt like my skills were a little bit underutilized. Not that there's anything wrong with that position I was in, but I felt really called to offer, the kind of care that I would look for myself, the kind of care I'd look for my family. So Through Liberty Counseling was born out of, not being big box, right? Everything is individualized. Everything is holistic. We're not just focusing on, your psychological needs as your mental health, but your whole person and how that affects your mental health, right? You can't just look at one portion of a person and decide that's what we're going to work on. So
I love that. So many different blocks to build that solid foundation. It sounds like you guys offer the full package rather than just a part of that approach. Now, your focus on the holistic approach side, can you explain what that means to our listeners and how it helps your clients?
Yeah. So, I guess simply, right, the three main pillars would be mind, body, spirit, right? But getting deeper into that would also be your environment, both the greater environment and your home environment. That would be your financial stability. If you ever Google the wellness wheel, right, that's kind of what we work on from that perspective, right? So it gets into your relationships and your emotions and, your nutrition, all of that fun jazz. So, and we, even as a team, right? So I was a solo kind of fella for about a year, but now we have a team of 7. So within that, we have people with, who specialize in first responders. We have people who specialize in fitness. We have people who specialize in, kind of like that new agey yoga feel. We have faith-based Christian counselors, Catholic counselors. So we have the whole gambit. Yeah.
I love that. And being someone that's in the space and has been in the space, what are some common myths about mental health and substance use that you may hear?
Yeah, that's a big one. So I do a lot of work in the community with Hope for New Hampshire Recovery. Actually, their executive director is interning for us right now, which is kind of a juxtaposition for him. But their thing, is substance use has many pathways to recovery, right? It's not just take this pill or do this or do that, or beyond substance use is mental health, right? So what does PTSD even mean, right? Big T traumas versus little T traumas. So our group is so eclectic that I think that there are so many myths. There's so many myths that it's hard to bust them all in this kind of short form. But I think that we probably have an answer for most myths there. Yeah, hopefully that wasn't an escape from that question, but
No, that was perfect.
there's all kinds of ways to treat mental health, treat physical health, treat substance use, and they don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Got it. And I did see something on your website. Hopefully this is right. How does ear acupuncture work, and what benefits have you seen from it?
Yeah, ear acupuncture is an interesting one. So on our team, we have 3 people that are licensed to do it in the state of New Hampshire. So ear acupuncture, by definition, is regulated by the acupuncture board, but it's regulated by the acupuncture board for detoxing from substance use. And that was actually discovered by the Black Panthers during the crack epidemic, which is really cool. So they kind of brought ancient wisdom to America to treat substance use around here, which is a fascinating story if you guys YouTube it. But so Manchester Acupuncture Studio and Hope for New Hampshire Recovery kind of teamed up. They've really been spearheading getting the community trained. But ear acupuncture really helps with acute detox symptoms as you're detoxing from substance use, but it also helps with mental health. So they did a study with first responders after 9/11, and they had therapy, they had massage, they had exercise, they had all kinds of things like that. But ear acupuncture was actually the #1 treatment in terms of first responders not walking away from the 9/11 attacks with PTSD. So, there is a lot of research in how it helps. And then there's other things, right? There's studies that show that it helps insomnia, helps just improve regular sleep. It's part of a balanced mental health care diet.
Absolutely. And when new clients come to you for the very first time, Nick, how do you help them find the right counselor for their needs?
Yeah, so we normally do like a 15-minute call. That's normally with me. But oftentimes, like I said, we have Mark, who is a Catholic-based therapist. And so sometimes the Catholic diocese will refer someone. It's like, no, you're looking for Mark, right? So typically the call's with me, but sometimes, also Emily specializes in first responders. So she might field that 15-minute call. But typically you're going to have a 15-minute call with me. I'm going to go over what you're looking for. And, I know my team very well. So we'll match you with the right person for sure. And
you mentioned
we don't have any prescribers, right? So if you're looking for more of like a medical-based approach or, a very manualized approach, we might not be the right fit for you, but we'll hook you up with the right people in the community for that too. We don't just leave our people high and dry.
Absolutely. And you mentioned first responders. Are there unique challenges that they face, and how do you help them?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So first responders, right, when we talk about having a specialty there, we paint with a very broad brush when we say that, right? Because, police officers, firefighters, EMTs, they all have their own unique challenges when they're in the field. And so really what a first responder specialty would look like is having that cultural competence. The same way, someone that's faith-based would have the cultural competence in the faith, right? But understanding some of the lingo, I know, so two of our clinicians are actually married to police officers. One of them really specializes in it. 3 of our clinicians are veterans, which is also different from first responders, but really there's very unique challenges that the general population doesn't face, right? You get these micro traumas that you're exposed to every single day. And if, I don't know your background, Noah, but if you and I were exposed to these micro traumas, we would probably be pretty messed up seeing something like that. But they see it every day and they're very resilient to it, right? So therapy has to just look a little bit different for them because they're not necessarily looking to go deeper into, what they saw yesterday. It's really more, how to live that holistic based life, right? How to get back to mind, body, spirit, and things like that.
Absolutely. And can you mention a little bit about the impaired driver care management program and why it's so important?
Yeah, so that the IDCNP is really big. So we are now one of 9 in the state of New Hampshire. Um, every year in New Hampshire, there are a million, that's, hyperbole, DUIs. And a lot of those, even if they don't end up getting convicted as DUIs, you're still required to do one of these programs. Now, our first class is going to be on October 13th. So we really are new to the ball game here, but we're going to bring our same holistic lens there. We have created our own in-house curriculum that's really going to be based on that wellness wheel. It's not going to be cookie cutter substance use treatment. It's going to be really individualized as much as you can in a group setting. But yeah, so what that entails is a 20-hour class that we're going to make as interactive and individualized and holistic as possible. And then you have an intake, you have an assessment, and you may or may not need counseling. And so from there, we're all counselors. So so that really is the pathway for people to get their license back and fulfill the DMV requirements.
I think there's an opinion out there where people, they're iffy about even getting help. What advice would you give to someone who's nervous about asking for help with their mental health?
Yeah, and you see that a lot. Different generations. The baby boomers all the way down to we're seeing Gen Alpha now, right? But I would say the bulk of our clientele is Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X. And each generation really looks at it very different. Painting with a broad brush, I think Gen Z is typically pretty receptive to therapy. I think they've grown up with the idea of it, and the older generations have done a good job destigmatizing for the most part. Millennials, I think, are where I fall into. We are kind of 50-50, closed off from it or not. And then, Gen X, I think, is right there with millennials as well. But I think in general, the stigma is going away and people are more willing in general to seek therapy. But for people who aren't that comfortable, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast is, I'm a regular human being, right? I don't necessarily have the tapestry behind me. We're not singing Kumbaya at a campfire or anything like that. But someone might like that, right? But we're all different therapists, right? So looking for the right therapist is good. If you can't imagine yourself sitting in a room with me, a 33-year-old man, then don't call me, right? Or call me and I'll hook you up with someone that you might feel more comfortable with. But, therapists come in all shapes and sizes, all types of backgrounds. And even if you have a bad experience, say with your guidance counselor in high school, that doesn't mean that you're going to have a bad experience. And the success in therapy actually has less to do with demographic of the client, demographic of the therapist, and it has almost everything to do with relationship. Do you trust the person sitting in front of you? Do you respect them? Do you care about them, right? And so that's why it's really important to just find the right therapist. And that's also why we offer those 15-minute calls to kind of explore that. If you don't like our style, then maybe we can help you find someone that is more your style, because that's what the numbers show is going to be effective.
And for your clients, how do you know when your clients are making progress in their own unique journey?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So, we have the way that you learn about in a book, which is, we have regular screening tools, which is absolutely true. We have depression screenings, we have anxiety screenings and things like that. And you can actually see it in your chart when you're a patient here. Typically, you can see your anxiety scores go down. Maybe they peak in right around Christmas time and they go down. And it's kind of cool to see over time. But there's also anecdotally, right? We as therapists regularly review our treatment plans. Typically, it's every 90 days or so. And, so that forces us to either individually as therapists or as our group discuss, I think they met this goal. I think they need to switch this goal, and then getting feedback from them. how do you think you're doing? You know, so that's really, in my opinion, the better measure. So we have the book way and the the layman's way of kind of assessing progress.
Terrific. And what are your hopes for the future of mental health services in our community and for your facility as well?
Yeah, so my facility, we offer a lot of psychotherapy right now. So I guess in a perfect world, we'd have a few more options on our menu, right? So acupuncture groups, historically, there's a demand, but it's like getting everybody all together at the same time, right? So there's a demand there for sure. So being able to serve that need that people want, or even offering more mind-body things like running therapy, or even just meetup groups, things like that. As a community, I would really love to see the union of the mental health world and the substance use world, because although you would expect them to be very intertwined, and obviously there is intertwining there, people normally have a mental health hat or a substance use hat, and not a lot of people have both. And even when they do have both, they typically look through one lens or another. Right. So I would really like to see, the mental health world understand the substance use world a little better, and the substance use world understanding the mental health world a little better.
Absolutely. And moving forward, for all our listeners, where can they find you? Where can they find your facility? Where can they get help?
Yeah. So you can find us online at throughliberty.com. So that's THROUGH Liberty. We are on all social media, though admittedly, our social media, that's not my strong suit. So we are located in Bedford. We are right near Target off of South River Road. You can also find us in Manchester often, collaborating with Hope for New Hampshire Recovery. And then you can find us via telehealth, right? So if someone from Berlin is listening in, or, someone from Keene, we're available.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Sounds of Success with Noah Swiderski. Big thanks to Nick Pigeon for sharing his thoughts on mental health and wellness. Remember, reaching out for help is a brave step. If you or someone you know needs support, check out Through Liberty Counseling. Until next time, keep pushing towards your goals. Thanks so much, Nick.
Thank you.